So Megyn Kelly did a segment about Gen Z men having approach anxiety. And the video starts off with her recapping some woman who made some video about wanting to go with some guy and basically made another video having buyer's remorse after meeting with some of these different guys. I'm skipping over that stuff because it's not related to what we're talking about here, but she segues into talking about a New York Times article and she gets her two panelists to discuss it with her. So I'll play what they said and then we can destroy the various comments and statements that they made afterward.
But they are having problems at the Gen Z level. You tell me whether you know about this, Haley, because the New York Post reports that the Gen Z men are not asking women out at all. They cite a man named Ryan Kessler. It's amazing that somebody actually
agreed to do this.
Went on the record with this. Right? He's 28 years old. He is, quote, terrified of talking to women. His hesitancy stems from, quote, the fear of being mistaken as a toxically macho, bone-headed creep. He told the Post when trying to win over a potential love interest, the last thing he wants is to be considered a jerk who makes ladies cringe rather than swoon with a clumsy pickup line and unwelcome advances. I never want to make the other person feel uncomfortable, and I want to be respectful. Some girls don't want to be approached at all, so I'm always trying to err on the side of caution. Not wanting to come off as pushy is a concern shared by nearly half of single men in the U.S. who grapple with approach anxiety, Haley. So what is our message to them?
This is pretty tragic. Also, you're not going to swoon anyone if you don't have the balls to go up and ask them out to begin with. I mean, this is really just fear. It's social anxiety. I think a lot of this stems in Gen Z from COVID. I think a lot of people got very comfortable just sitting behind their screens, behind their Zoom laptops. You know, they're not going into school anymore. Their social activities were canceled. And I think a lot of people found comfort in that. A lot of people that struggle with social anxiety, which is horrible to see what this is done to society and specifically in dating. But I think that this is also a pretty nasty side effect of dating culture and dating app culture as well, because dating apps kind of take away the fear, right? You don't have to be rejected face to face. You don't have to be rejected in real life. You don't have to go up to a girl and say, hey, I think you're cute. And she says, ew, get away from me. Or no, I have a boyfriend or anything like that. You assume if you're on a dating app that the other person, if they're being honest, is single. And then if you match, they also like you back. So you don't have to go out in public when you go to a bar and shoot your shot because you don't have to worry about that. You could just hang out with your friends and then go home and let the dating app do all the work for you.
Yeah, back in my day, when I was your age, they had to come over to us at a bar or a restaurant or a campus or whatever they had to. But, you know, I'm channeling Jordan Peterson right now because I know exactly what he would be saying. He would be saying, this is the fault of the women. And I don't think that would be wrong. Like, clearly this poor guy, my heart goes out to him, has had enough. I'm just going to take a shot and say probably leftist women be like, sit your ass down. You know, how dare you come over to me? Or shoot him down as like somehow stepping on her feminist power by coming over with a pickup line that a lot of these guys are now feeling really gun shy about it, Isabel.
You're absolutely correct. And what's really sad is we've created an entire culture for young men to just choose to self-censor up front when it comes to basic chivalry of wanting to hold the door open for someone or help them lift their bag on the airplane into the overhead bin because they've been so regularly yelled at by these radical leftist women that that's so anti-feminist and you hate women for suggesting that you should be a helping hand. I have an almost 9-month-old daughter, and I can't tell you how many times I was on planes when I was heavily pregnant with my daughter Isla that I actually had to go out of my way to ask men for help with my heavy suitcase that I wasn't supposed to be lifting in my 3rd trimester of pregnancy because no one was offering anymore. So I do think we've really built this culture led by young women to stay away from me, men, don't approach me, don't come talk to me. And yet most of the studies that are being done on dating show that when young men do ask a woman out on a date, upwards of 90+% of the time, it's successful because nobody is asking in the first place. So I think we have to have kind of a reckoning as a generation with what we're okay with societally now and see a lot more leadership from these young men to just ask.
The women do want it, Haley. The Post reports that that 72% of women between the ages of 18 and 30 and 68% between the ages of 30 and 40 hope to be approached more. And then, of course, the Post has got a quote from somebody, a guy saying, well, I don't see anything wrong with the women approaching men for dates. He says, I know there's the argument that men used to go to war, but now women can too. So why can't they do the approaching? And my answer to that is, thousands of years of biology and evolution. Like, men are programmed just genetically to be the pursuers, to come after the prey, to be the lion. And women enjoy that. Most normal women love to be pursued. And there's a whole game of cat and mouse that's kind of like a long foreplay kind of thing. And I resent the obnoxious feminists who have tried to beat this out of our men. I don't know. What would you say to a guy in this position who are afraid, who don't know how to approach a woman in a bar or elsewhere with a pickup line? Like, what's your advice to them?
Leave the pickup line at home. I would just say strike up a conversation as you would anyone else. I have shot my shot, right? I have gone up to guys that I thought are cute and I give them my number or whatever, and it doesn't work out, and it's okay, right? Like, I'm here, I'm alive to tell the tale. Nothing happened to me. I didn't die. And I'll tell you a personal story. I was at a Christmas party a few weeks ago, and I got a DM the next day from a guy saying, hey, my friend saw you at the party last night, thought you were cute. Here's his picture. Here's his number. Reach out to him if you'd like to go on a date. I said, no, absolutely not.
I was going to say, oh, hell no.
Your friend was in the same room as me, and you didn't take the opportunity to come and meet me in real life. The bar's in hell. Come up to me and ask me out in real life.
Yes, exactly right. I mean, I'm old school, right? I'm Gen X, but I would never go. I would never ask a man out, and I would never go out with a man who is too timid to approach me.
Exactly.
Like, you have to be fearless and bold, and I expect you to be a leader. Like, I expect you to be, even in my relationship, I'm obviously an A-type personality, but in my relationship, my husband is the dominant personality. He's much more of the A personality, and I'd have it no other way. But that has to start from the very beginning. I think conservative women are different. Some liberal women are like we are, but I think conservative women are different.
Now, sometimes when you see people say something is bad, it comes off as hyperbole. Like, there's no way this could be, as awful as they say it is. But I truly believe this video, the one that I played a majority of in my own video, is a strong contender for one of the worst things ever uploaded on this website. In the 20 plus years that YouTube has been around, this is a contender for one of the worst things ever put on here. For a couple of reasons. One is that the problem I have with discussions like these are that they're so tone deaf and also very revealing in terms of what the priorities of the people who talk about them are. So, for example, I don't understand how you can have a discussion about the anxiety of men, right, in terms of wanting to date, and not have a single man on the panel. Have three women talking about what they believe men should be doing, and then be surprised when you come off as really a joke. I mean, this was the same thing that happened with with Erica Kirk and Nicki Minaj at that TPUSA event, where it's like you're going to have these women telling men what they should be and then be shocked when that outreach doesn't work. Now, Megyn starts off by mentioning the New York Post article where they had this guy that was talking about he was worried about, bothering women if he asked them out. And, this Haley person responds to that by saying that you're not going to swoon anyone if you don't have the balls to ask them out to begin with. And, my thing is, this is, again, we're not even halfway through this. Already, just complete garbage coming out of one of these women's mouth. It makes total sense to me in an era where women can get you in trouble over pretty much anything, why someone would be reluctant to ask them out. Need I bring up that I had a coworker who had a female coworker try to get him fired for saying hi to her in a little tiny hallway, said he was standing too close to her. I had a coworker who tried to get me fired for asking her for a number. And it's like, these are the kinds of things where if the genders were reversed, right? A man having a woman ask him for his number, woman saying hi to a guy, these, you wouldn't see this. You wouldn't see that kind of thing. And these are the kind of examples that are purposefully downplayed by these bimbos because they want to pretend that, the worst that could happen is she says no, right? Also, the line of you're not going to swoon anyone if you don't have the balls to ask them out to begin with. You're not going to get men to want to ask out women by insulting them. So, for example, my reluctance to approach, which I have not done in over 4 years, comes from experience. As someone who asked out loads of women across social media, in person at places like schools I attended in malls, and always came up with an undesired result, it is overwhelmingly likely that whatever attempts I make to court or appeal to one of them are not going to end well for me. And again, people sit here and they might say, "Oh, well, you don't know," and if you just keep trying. But again, if we're going strictly off of any type of basic pattern recognition skills, this is overwhelmingly how it ends up being. And a lot of guys feel like at a certain point they're just tired of the constant reluctance and refusal to give any sort of advancement. I mean, who the hell wants to talk to 100, 200, 300, 400 women just to maybe get a date? The juice isn't worth the squeeze. And it especially isn't if you're like me and, you have like specific desires, where it's like I mentioned wanting to have kids, and you have women who just without even asking, on your part, will say they don't want it. So you know from the second you start speaking to her, okay, this is a crash and burn waste of time. Don't bother with it. But the middle lady, Isabel, right? The one in the middle, she talks about chivalry and how she couldn't get these guys to hold something open for her or whatever. And I'm thinking to myself, I can understand where if someone's pregnant, they should have some assistance in terms of, there are limitations of what they can and can't lift. But do men really owe you like having one of us lift something for you? Like maybe don't bring such heavy luggage. Don't just assume that people. I mean, I've been very clear that this is an era of pricks, right? So like I brought up the relative who went for a walk. He was in his 80s, and he sits down and he's like, "Hey, can one of you guys help lift me up?" And they refuse. People would not help him. Again, this is an elderly looking man, and they just would not assist him. So, that's sad for him, and it's also sad for her. But again, it's like, are you really shocked that in general there may be occasions where you just can't expect someone to give you a help or a hand, as the conservatives would say, a handout? But my favorite part of this whole video is what she says next, where she claims that 90% of the time when a Gen Z man approaches a woman, it's successful. Now, I don't know where the hell she got her statistic from, and literally, I'm not even saying that to be funny. I went and looked. I was like, there's no way that there's any scenario where regular guys, right, go and ask a girl out that's the same age as them, and she says yes 9 times out of 10, or even 8 times out of 10. I think actually it's probably closer to 9 out of 100. Like just to get rid of the zero, like a 9% acceptance rate. Damn near, you might as well be applying to an Ivy League school. But what is so crazy is that we know from, okay, because I will literally, if anyone can show me that statistic of there being a 90% rate of guys asking a woman on a date and she says yes, I will literally do a video standing on top of my car and dancing. There is no way in hell that that's true, given the fact that we know a majority of guys that are young in the U.S. don't have a girlfriend. So it's like these two numbers cannot coexist. And it's funny, they can just like come on there and tell blatant lies like that, and no one says, "Wait, you mean to tell me that many guys get accepted? Okay, why are there so many of them that are not? Why are a majority of them not with someone?" A never an honest word. And then Megyn, when the idea of women asking out men is brought up, she resents it. She cites evolution. She says men are programmed genetically to be the pursuers, to come after the prey. And then she claims that most normal women love to be pursued. Now, you get where it's kind of weird because, when I think about asking a woman on a date, which I haven't done in almost 5 years, I don't see her as like this thing I have to go after. Just, oh, that woman over there is very attractive. Like, maybe I should say something to her, which of course that doesn't play for me anyway. But really, it's funny to think about how the problem with these fake conservative women, the grifter types, is that they want to, and this is the problem I've had with fake feminism, or as I've called it, part-time feminism, is that they want to hold on to the way things used to be while also embracing the way things currently are, right? So like, 30, 40, 50 years ago, you didn't really have that many prominent female commentators, someone that could just sit there and flap their gums and make more money than most people that go out and work a 9 to 5. And, just in general, women have way more options in terms of men and jobs than they did, 30, 40 years ago. So to sit here and talk about evolution and all the stuff that men were programmed to do, well, hell, a lot of those programs have been flipped on their head. And a lot of guys who see women that are very resentful and even in many cases antagonistic to them when they do go out and approach are simply saying, all right, well, to hell with it. Of course, what's really funny is that later in this same clip, Haley, which is the lady that's to the far right, she admits to asking men out. So you've got one woman who's like, oh, no, this is stupid and it's against the evolution. And then the other one's like, yeah, I get desperate and I ask guys out. Then just to close this out, my favorite quote from Megyn: I would never ask a man out, and I would never go out with a man who is too timid to approach me. You have to be fearless and bold, and I expect you to be a leader. My thing is, what's so comedic about this, right, is that Megyn has been married for 18 years, right? It's almost 20 years. So it's not like anyone would even still be trying to court her anyway, unless they like asking out women that are married. Secondly, why do you have to be fearless and bold to go on a date with someone? And this is kind of where we start to get into why modern relationships feel like a goddamn joke. What I've always liked, again, as an idea, not in execution, is that when you have a partner who you actually like just spending time with and being with, you can, tell them how your day went, what's bothering you. And I've seen this with couples, right, where they can just let their hair down in a general sense and just talk about things. And I've been very vocal in that there are things I am confident about, right? Like, I know all the stuff they're saying in this video is garbage, but I'm also open in terms of the things that bother me, fear of not being able to find a job, just the various things that do actually make me uncomfortable and worried about the future. And the idea that I would have to play this character of being fearless and bold just to go on a date with, some broad that's got more animal hair in her head than actual hair and defends predators, let's not forget that Jeffrey Epstein clip. The idea that I would have to do all of that to appeal to her just seems like a gag. And also is counterintuitive to anything I would want from a partner. I don't want to try dating some woman who I have to try to impress because I'm done pretending to be something that I'm not. Especially for a bunch of chicks that whether I'm with them or not, I don't get any closer to any of my long-term goals, which includes getting married or having children, because what appears to be a majority of them are against doing those things. So one of the reasons this clip was just so stupid is that Megyn is like the poster child for, that, like I said, part-time feminism, where, again, you like feminism when it means you can have your own show, run your mouth, say whatever you want, probably make more money than your husband, certainly be more famous than your husband. But you don't like it when it means the idea of like, oh, now men actually think women should be asking them out. Oh, now men think there should be women that actually help them to pay for things as the wages stay the same and the cost of living goes up and up and up. Oh, that's crazy. But that's why I said I'm not really a fan of the modern woman, because you either have to embrace a society where everyone is truly equal, right? So there will be women who have no men asking them out. There will be men who have no women asking them out. There will be women that are taking care of the guys that they're with. There will be, this vice versa. Or you have to go back to how things were. You can't have this half and half crap. But really the biggest victims of this video, this little segment she did, are men, because none of what they're saying here is being done to actually be of assistance to guys, right? So like she brings up Jordan Peterson. I never talk about that guy, period. But she brings him up and she tries to extend olive branch. Oh, well, these liberal women are the ones that are telling men they can't be what they're supposed to be. But it's like, none of this stuff is related to anyone's ideology. You have a conservative woman, a supposed conservative woman, who, she doesn't believe any of that trad wife crap. She's working and she's got her own show. and she's got two other bimbos sitting there, and they're doing the same thing, running their mouths, and they want you to believe that there's an actual difference between them and the supposed evil liberal women that are making our men less of what they are. But the truth is, they don't give any more of a damn about what a guy would want than these other chicks they claim to be so much better than. It's all just a grift. They're trying to appeal to those dispirited men, which, you know, I'm all for actually talking to them, but they're not serious about it because they don't even have a guy on there to talk to. And you can see the political agenda. So, like, for example, I know that trying to get a date is harder than it should be. It doesn't matter if the woman you're asking out is liberal, conservative, whatever the hell. We already talked about all the stupid stuff with dating websites, women being convinced that they're so much better than men, where they can go on a dating site and ask for guys that are 6 feet, but then they're only like 5'2" or 5'1". You know, just all the little horrible nonsense. But I don't mention any of that and then go, oh, well, see, it's only these types of women who have this political ideology. No, they're just bad. So on behalf of those three buffoons, really, I thought I was watching an episode of the Three Stooges. I'd like to apologize for their inaccurate, inept commentary, and just say that, you know, if you're a guy who's having trouble getting a date, if it's any solace, know that you're not alone. A majority of young men in the U.S. are not with a woman. And, you know, you have these people, they take two sides of stuff, right? They either try to chastise you, as you had the one lady going, oh, you don't have the balls to ask out women. Or they tried to tell you of this magic, you know, I call it the magic woman, this, you know, who's going to just appear out of the blue and suddenly be so great and amazing. But, you know, I'm very honest with my assessments of things. Like, this was a crappy video. Like two things can be true at once. This was a bad video, one of the worst I've ever seen on this site. And you're more likely to see Elvis come back than me meet a woman who is actually decent and reciprocating and whatnot. It's just, you know, it's a reality that for some guys, no matter what they do, there just aren't going to be that many options for you, or any at all that are viable.